building schools.
Torture and killings for the
Hello and good morning, and of course, welcome to this edition of The Conversation. The Conversation comes your way Monday through to Friday on TOS TV Network, your digital first Pan-African network. And I am Nkamiang John. As always, I don't do this alone. Got my partner, co-host, and wingwoman with me, Stephanie Odia. Good morning,
Hello,
Stephanie.
John. Good morning, and it feels good to be back here. The couch is comfortable. I know you were going to say that, anyway, so it's fine.
Obviously, you had a restful weekend.
Yeah.
I can see, I can tell. All right. Well, on this edition of The Conversation, it promises to be quite interesting. I must say at this point that we will do our bit to keep you up to speed with developments as far as our beautiful continent of Africa is concerned. Of course, one of the biggest trending stories is the Ethiopia Tigray crisis. And the latest is that Ethiopia has given the Tigray region 72 hours to ceasefire and step down, especially as the Ethiopian army is marching towards the capital, Mekelle. Now, the UN, the African Union, ECOWAS, all regional blocs are watching with the hope that they can de-escalate the situation. But already there are fears that if this escalates beyond what it is, the whole Horn of Africa might just go down with it. Let's not forget, the Horn of Africa has been a focal point in years, especially when the war between South Sudan and Sudan raged for so many years. The Horn of Africa has always been hit by devastation, mostly hunger and conflict. And so right now, there's a whole lot of speculation and apprehension as to how this will pan out. Of course, a number of countries have tried to wade into the situation with the hope that the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, in the person of Abiy Ahmed, will be able to, jojo rather than war, as the case may be. But as always, we'll do our bit to keep you up to speed with developments all across Africa. Right here, we will be giving you stories making the rounds as far as Nigeria is concerned. And as the week progresses on the conversation, we'll try to lay our hands on the national dailies of Ghana, Kenya, major cities across Africa, so you can also get a glimpse of what the big stories are as far as other African countries are concerned. But today, we will be doing the major stories as far as the dailies in Nigeria are concerned. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, don't forget, still ahead, we have trending, what's trending on social media, and of course, giving you bits and pieces of some of the major developments that have happened over the weekend, spilling into the new week. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. It's still the conversation on TOS TV Network, your digital first Pan-African network. We did tell you that we'll be jumping straight into major stories making the rounds as far as the national dailies in Nigeria is concerned. And this morning, I guess we'll be starting with a punch.
Yes, we start with the punch, and this one has a very interesting headline. Buhari's regime, second recession. Cuts governance cost, aid production, diversify, experts tell federal government. We know what's going on in the country as we speak, John. It's been about the economy. Well, it's not doing so good, as you rightly said. A lot is happening. Well, this is Nigeria's second recession under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. So we get to see experts, proffering solutions to the federal government. And, well, we're likely to see more as the week goes by.
Well, I must say at this point that Nigeria is not the only African country, and not only African countries are feeling the weight of the coronavirus, and of course, in Nigeria's case, shortly after the coronavirus, the NSARS, which some public officials have blamed for having a major effect on the economy of the country. Just last week, one African country failed to be able to pay back one of its, the first of several African countries. So it's worrisome. It's worrisome. For us here in Nigeria, it's more worrisome in the fact that I think the questions that is going through the minds of Nigerians is, can this government or does this government have what it takes to be able to pull us out of recession? Now, don't forget, under the Goodluck Jonathan administration, we went into recession, but in a very short time, we were out of recession, and not just out of recession, we became the largest, biggest economy in Africa, and we had to rebase our economy. So I'm wondering, can the Buhari administration do one better, than what we saw under the, because right now it is not, this situation is not just a Nigerian problem. Other African countries are going to be like, wait a minute, if Nigeria, with the kind of, which is supposed to have the largest economy on the continent, is in recession, then what happens to smaller countries like Namibia, Malawi, with smaller economies, countries that don't even have the kind of natural resources that Nigeria can boast of.
We did see statements from the Central Bank of Nigeria in the Lagos State Chamber of Commons, I beg your pardon. Well, they said it may not be that bad, especially from the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce. We'll talk about
we
this.
May have passed the worst.
Exactly. So we'll get to that
recession.
part on today's edition before we let the cat out of the bag. But we hope that it's not as bad as it seems, and in due time, this will be over and we'll move right on. And so still on the punch, there's a rider underneath. APC demands Nasarawa chairman's killing probe. Buhari, others mourn. Over the weekend, we learned that the chairman for APC, Nasarawa State, was murdered, and of course his remains was actually dumped not so far from his house. Our thoughts and our prayers are with his family right now. But it's a sad thing, and it brings us right back to the question of insecurity in the country. Beyond
the economy, the next biggest thing that taunts this government is insecurity, the height of crime and killings. In fact, kidnapping tops the list.
Especially in the north. We've been seeing a lot of this unrest from the north. We do hope that there are steps and plans are in place to make this all go away. Okay, so still on the punch. Escort policemen kill Ekiti man, abandoned corpse, van in hospital.
Now that seems to be the latest trend. Don't forget, going into the closing stages of last week, one of the aides of the Speaker of the House of Representatives shot a newspaper vendor, which almost sparked another protest by vendors across the capital city, Abuja. Though over the weekend, there were reports that the Speaker of the House of Representatives actually visited the family of the vendor who died as a result of that. And of course, the IGP of police has come out to say the man has been dishonorably discharged. Says he's no longer a Nigerian policeman as a result of that incident. So on the heels of that, having to come across this Ekiti shooting, one begins to wonder.
It is worrisome.
But again, you see, this goes back to something I said on 1 or 2 editions back on the show, that there is need for the police to undergo psychological evaluation, debriefing, and continuous debriefing of the men, especially after the EndSARS protest. Because what you would see happening as the aftermath of the EndSARS protest will be incidents like this, because now the police, rather than see the members of society as their partners, they see them more as, enemies. Oh, you people don't regard what we do.
You don't appreciate
You don't
our
appreciate
services.
us. So there's that antagonism, there's that stereotype. And it's not just a Nigerian thing, and I think it's across most African countries. I mean, you read the headlines. Is it in Cote d'Ivoire? Is it in Angola? It is the police always doing the dirty job of, quelling protests, denying people their rights to protest, to expressing themselves. And there's always that clash between the citizens and the police, especially with the fact that the police is supposed to be the arm of the law that keeps law and order. So it would be good if, under the prevailing circumstance, that the current IGP of police, fashions out a system that makes it possible to change the orientation of the police force as it is right now, and again makes them to understand that the Nigerians appreciate them. But as long as they don't recognize that their primary responsibility to Nigerians, and this goes to other police formations across Africa, that your primary assignment is to serve and protect. And those two things work hand in hand. In serving the people will give you hints as to where the loopholes are, who the criminal vices in the communities are, and it makes it easier for you to apprehend them and make them face the long arm of the law. So it has to be a symbiotic relationship.
That's right, John. And finally, on the Punch, stock market halts gains, investors lose 470 billion naira.
Heavy losses.
Yes,
heavy
still
losses.
on the matter of Nigeria plunging into another recession. Over to you, John.
Yes, next we go to This Day newspaper. The This Day newspaper has this gaping headline on the front page. It says 1,247 petitions, filed on alleged police brutality in 30 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, the capital city, Abuja, of Nigeria. So it just tells you how far. These are the ones that have been filed. So talk less of the ones that have not been filed. They probably would be much more than this. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier, the need to change the stereotype, the narrative as far as policing in Nigeria and Africa. Because I remember about a year or 2 years ago when a report surfaced about police ratings across the world. Nigeria, I think Kenya, South Africa was, I think, 7th or 8th, but Nigeria and Kenya, one other African country, had the worst policing after India in the world.
Now that's really disturbing.
Yeah.
Something has
It was really disturbing. Unfortunately, the Nigerian police didn't come out with a reaction immediately. Some days later, they did react and try to debunk the claims. But if we must go by recent developments and even these stories of shootings by policemen who are supposed to be trained to handle weaponry, you begin to tend to believe that probably some of that report was accurate in its summation. So
we hope a lot will be done to address this, and the current police reform that we're all expecting to see as the day goes by. We trust that the commissioner, the IG of police, would come to a resolve on police brutality.
For me, and I'm sure this might be the thoughts of most Nigerians, what exactly are the reforms? Because the police hasn't come out to tell us these and these and these are the steps they're taking and in what direction. The best we've heard is, they changed SARS with SWAT, and all of that. But what are the key things
We
they're
want to
putting?
see more details.
Yeah,
coming from police reforms.
some year, I think last year or so, Channels did a report on the police college. I mean, it's appalling to see the state of one of the institutions that is supposed to be the premium institution that trains men and officers for the Nigerian police force deteriorating. So what are they doing? So it's not just about what you put out on the face of the media, but what is actually being done on the ground.
That's right.
Still on the This Day newspaper, we've got this one: APC PDP in suspense game over zoning of presidency. Again, the build-up to 2023, and the politics has begun with the cross-carpeting and the reactions and inactions. So let's see how it goes. Still on this day, you have FG Labour talks on petrol price increase end in on petroleum price increase ends in stalemate. Now, the reports had it that the meeting over the weekend between Labour, TUC, and the government saw a situation where Labour walked out of the meeting. Right now, it's still sketchy as to what the way forward is. Of course, the last time government and Labour had a tete-a-tete on issues revolving around electricity tariff, and petroleum. I think Labour shifted ground, allowed government to, get their way with the increased price in petroleum, and for them to be able to get a reduction in electricity tariff. And not knowing to them that shortly after that, there would be another increase on the pump price of PMS. So I think at this point, Labour is a bit unhappy with the trend of events.
I don't see Labour and TUC letting this go. I don't see that happen. Going by the body language over the weekend, the meeting that didn't reserve to any good so far, I do not think that Labour and TUC will stand this.
Okay, I won't blame them, because if we are to look at this year alone, petrol price in 2020 has been increased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. It's in May, it was 123 naira 5 kobo. In June, just a month after, it was 125 naira 5 kobo per liter. In July, it moved from 125 to 143 naira 8 kobo per liter, right? And then in August, it means right from May, we've had petroleum price, PMS, pump price of PMS, increased virtually every month. In July, it moved from 125 to 143 naira 80 kobo. In August, 148 naira 50 kobo per liter. In September, it moved from 148 naira 50 kobo to 162 naira. And then in October, it moved from 162 naira to 168 naira. And then November, it's 170
There's
naira.
been consistent hike in price. That's what this chart shows. As I said, I do not see Labour and TUC standing down on this one.
So it's a tough one. Still on this day, it's at the top of the page. It has Bofia tightens nozzle on banks' control of dominant accounts. MPC holds last meeting in 2020 to fight recession. Of course, recession is on the table right now for most financial establishments, the CBN, the economy. Right now, as a Nigerian, I really want to hear what the economic team, headed by the vice president, has to say. I think Nigerians would be interested in knowing
That's right.
what the approach would be in trying to get us out of recession.
And that takes us to our next news headlines from The Guardian. Now, this one reads, wobbly choices for CBN on recession. Back to what you were saying, John. Right now, we know that the CBN, the federal government, and the Minister of Finance, they're all in talks because they're trying to look for a way out of recession. As I mentioned earlier, this is the second time the country is plunging into recession under the current administration, but we hope that this would be reserved soonest, as the first time we went into recession under President Buhari. No fewer than about a year, things stabilized, but after that, we were stuck with inflation.
If you can see the front page of The Guardian right now, you would see a graph that is actually showing the real GDP growth rate from 2015 till date. If you remember when we had Adakole Ijogi, the economist, with us on some previous edition of the conversation, he did mention that there is a need for economists to look at the economy real time rather based on GDP. And I think that it would be good if the president could expand the economic team and bring in more economic eggheads, like I like to call them, to be able to look at. Because when you have economists with divergent opinions, you will hear 2 or 3 different ideas. And the question is, can you borrow from those ideas and formulate a plan that works? You get my point. So for me, like I said earlier, or as I said earlier, most Nigerians want to hear solutions, want to hear results. So, Mr. President,
up to you.
Up to you.
Oh, well, so as the week goes by, we'll definitely hear from Mr. President and the entire team. Next story on The Guardian, infertility set to rise after COVID-19. This is really interesting. I mean, I'm wondering what could be going on here, John.
Well, it says experts blame infection, late marriage, research projects drop in birth rates.
Okay, so we're about to see a decrease in population?
Well, it's from looking at this headline, that's what it suggests, that we will be having less births. It's supposedly both a good and bad thing. Don't forget, tentatively, we are over or about 200 million.
That's right.
Largest black nation on planet Earth. And the big question that most population experts have asked is, do we have what it takes to manage
that population?
Do we have set structures that will help to develop, especially a population where, looking at the demograph, the graph shows that 65% of it is young people. And of that 65%, about 85% to 90% are unemployed.
So the workforce is actually losing out big time.
Exactly. All you need to do, I borrowed from Adakole's conversation with us. He said, you can imagine, of a nation of over 200 million people, or about 200 million people, banks can only account for 22 million. That is that's just a little over 10%.
It's a far cry.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So there's so much to be done. So in as much as we could worry, because look, maybe from a personal standpoint, how many families, I saw my secondary school alma mater platform where an old classmate of mine said, if you're a father or a family of 3 or 4 children, please come this way. Let's discuss how do we survive in this kind of economy.
Going with the
So
current recession
exactly.
in the country.
So you now, because the inflation is triple digits, everything is on the high. School fees will go up.
Cost of living will increase
Now,
automatically.
let me also point this out. Spending power is low. Most people have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19. Some are still have gotten jobs, but the jobs are not paying what they used to earn. So it's a complete restructuring, economical restructuring at the family level. And when the average Nigerian does not have purchasing power, that the level of demand drops.
Right. So there's an obstruction in the chain.
Exactly.
Because it's a chain.
Exactly.
Yes.
That circle, it becomes abnormal. So that's why right now, as I have said, probably this is the 3rd time I'm going to say it, Nigerians are waiting to hear from Mr. President, because right now the ball is in his court to tell us, how do we get out of this recession? How do we get the economy back on its footing again? How do we get the economy working again?
That's right. And so that's about it for The Guardian. Moving on to Business Day. Over to you, John.
All right, Business Day. Interesting headline on the front page. Life was already tough for Nigerians, and then came recession. I like the way it's put. I like the way it's put.
Biggest story for the week.
For a business newspaper.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. It's real. Everybody could relate to this.
Of course.
I mean, it's just, you could say this is literally the thoughts coming out of the mouths of Nigerians. Life was already tough for Nigerians, and then came recession. And of course, again, if you're looking at the front page of the This Day newspaper, you would see the graph, Nigeria gross domestic product Q3 2020. You would see the graph, the red and the green, and of course where it dips in the red. I know for most Nigerians and Africans, you would want to get the figures. The numbers are not looking good, I must confess, especially the data that has been made available by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, led by my very good friend, Dr. Yemi Kale, I think that came out on Friday. And it's been a subject of conversation across board, across Nigeria, and I think across Africa. Now, at this point, I can understand. We read one of the headlines where experts suggest diversification of the economy, but right now I'm asking, why are our borders still closed?
Well, we did hear from the federal government that the borders are about to be open, especially with the current state of Nigeria's economy. But then again, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, so they're ensuring that all measures are being put in place, and that we get back to doing business as normal at the Nigerian borders.
Now, the one that baffles me, because I've seen it trend on Twitter, and people have given all kinds of meaning and connotation to it, is Mr. President signing a deal where we're buying petrol from Niger Republic.
As he rightly stated, also going by the words of the NNPC GMD, he said we're actually working on having storage at Niger Republic.
In Niger Republic.
Yes, pending when the refineries in Nigeria will be ready, to run smoothly. So as I saw this morning, he also commissioned the finishing of one of the refineries in the east, I think particularly Imo State, if I'm correct. And so they're ensuring that all of these are being put together to ensure that, moving forward, the new Nigeria that we want to see will refine our crude, and then this would also take care of the hike in petrol prices.
And just before we call it a wrap on this day, Business Day, it says low pay in service, worse in retirement. Police officers face uncertain future.
Anyway, we hope that all of these are considered as part of the police reform, especially because the cost of living is on the high side. If we want to be fair enough, these policemen have families to go back home to, and to ensure that they work with their minds in the right place at all time, and we don't keep having situations where someone is aggrieved or someone is going through all manner of mental issue because means of livelihood is not pleasant, and he goes about just being the opposite from the exact way he's supposed to function. So we trust that the police IGP would consider all of this.
Well, that's how it is on the pages of newspapers right here in Nigeria. As we promise, tomorrow, moving forward, we will try to lay our hands on newspapers across Africa so that you get a glimpse of what is happening in other African countries. But if you're watching us from other parts of Africa, now you have an idea of what the big stories are as far as Nigeria is concerned. Of course, the biggest of them all is the fact that Nigeria is in recession. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll begin to look at some of the big stories making the rounds.
Tony Maganaki. Yeah.
Everything is changed nowadays. Funny how we can't even play no more. It was only yesterday when we party every day. Now it's blood on the dance floor. All because of the virus. But it can't kill the power inside us to stand together and defeat Corona.
أنا وياك البارح كنا هانيين نقولوا هانية. دابا things are changing لكل قلب نرد شوية. نخرجوا إن شاء الله نعيشوا إن شاء الله. Cause nobody is safe until everybody's safe.
Tuamini nalo litakwisha. Na tena tutalishinda tu. Tupambane hii vita. Tumshinde COVID-19.
Tuna kila sababu ya kuwajali wengine. Tafadhali tujilinde, tuwalinde, tuamue sasa.
One day my people, one day we'll be celebrating. Cause this plague is over. Nothing will be separating us. Cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Oh, everybody is safe. Oh.
Rain no go fall forever. Sun goes to shine, my sister. We go beat Corona if we stand together. If we stand in solidarity, we no go fit to fall down, fall down. Yeah, me I like that. Me I like you and I know you like me too. Me I love you and I know you love me too. We gonna spread the word and not divide us so. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Oh, me I want to be safe. Oh, eh, oh. Oba me bush in Chile. Feels like we lost me. We'll pick up the pieces, start over. All the tears will be all over. Genuinely we will be much closer. For now we scream and shout. One day my people, one day we'll be celebrating. Cause this plague is over. Nothing will be separating us. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe.
Everybody is safe. One day my people, one day we'll be celebrating. Cause this plague is over. Nothing will be separating us. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe.
J'ai passé un gros big up à tous ceux qui font le taf. Dans les hôpitaux, la tristesse sous les masques. Mister Corona nous a piqué dans la face. On a tous peur, quoi qu'on dise, quoi qu'on fasse. On va gagner, gagner, gagner. À nous la victoire, notre histoire, elle va changer. Tous les jours, les soirs, c'est la messe. Frérot, tu sais, Couronne nous a tous mis dans la S.
Mothers are kings and fathers are queens. You reign in your quest for the truth and strive in your sleep. The people in your past can relate, your victory great. I saw you on the shits in your graves, your fathers relate. Many cries now, but they never beat the sunrise. Swinging in your fight and we waiting for your come right. Your faith gon' heal you, heaven gon' keep you. I'm praying that the sun never leaves you. I feel you here.
Ei, se não nos unirmos agora, tudo que construímos outrora, destruímos agora. É melhor nos munirmos agora. O futuro das crianças decidimos agora. Covid não escolhe cor, somos todos alvos. Enquanto não tivermos todos, ninguém tá salvo. A mensagem é básica, para não mudarmos o nome da Mama África para Mama Lágrima.
አንድ ላይ ከቆሙ መታደግ ይቻላል። One day my people, one day we be celebrating, 'cause this plague is over. Nothing will be separating us, 'cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Oh, everybody is safe. Oh, one day my people, one day we be celebrating, 'cause this plague is over. Nothing will be separating us, 'cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Oh, everybody is safe. Oh, nobody is safe. One day my people, one day we'll be celebrating, 'cause this plague is over. Nothing will be separating us, 'cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Oh, everybody is safe. Oh.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right, it's still the conversation, and it's coming to you live and interactive on TOS TV Network, your digital first Pan-African network. And this is the part of the show where I like the most, because I get to tell you that it is live and interactive, and you can be part of the conversation. All you need to do is take the opportunity of getting to vent by being part of our online community. Very simple. All you need to do is follow our social media platforms, like and follow, and of course get to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well.
That's right. You could follow us on social media at TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at TOS TV Network. You could also visit the website www.tostvnetwork.com for more.
All right, don't forget it's live and interactive, and the aim for the interactive nature of our show and almost every show on the TOS TV network platform is for you to be given the opportunity to vent, but ultimately the focus will be on how to help you turn your anger, frustration, because I know a lot of Nigerians and a lot of Africans are angry and are looking for opportunities to air their views, contribute their quota as to how situations and developments across Africa can be resolved, from Nigeria to Ivory Coast to Angola to Kenya, all across the globe. Let's not forget Libya, where there's been talks going on in neighboring Tunisia as a way to be able to fashion an interim government that will give way to an elected government so that Libya can eventually once again find its way into the League of Nations. So don't forget, it's an opportunity for us to turn your anger and disappointment into action and results. So join our online community and be part of the conversation. So what's the big one this morning?
Okay, John, there are a couple of stories making the rounds, especially from the weekend. Now, we start with the sudden passing of APC chairman of Nasarawa State, of course. It's been confirmed that he was murdered. He was kidnapped, and while he was held hostage, we know currently that there's been no news that his kidnappers demanded for ransom at the time, and only for us to just wake up to the news on the 23rd of November that he had been murdered and his body lying lifeless few meters from his residence in Lafia Metropolis. However, investigations are still ongoing, and we've not really heard of any official statement from the Nigeria Police Force concerning, convicting the mothers yet, or eventually figuring out who exactly did this. We've seen statements from the APC spokesperson and also several APC governors across the country demanding that justice be done.
Sadly, this is the face of African politics. Sad because, I mean, it gets dirty, it gets messy, and worse is that lives get lost.
Right.
We can only wait for the official statement from the police. Whatever makes the rounds now will be speculations, but it may also not be unconnected to his political activities within Nasarawa State. Now, for those of us who are in the capital city, we would be worried because Nasarawa is just our next door
a few
neighbor.
meters from
So
the federal capital territory.
we've witnessed, last week, a better part of last week and upper week, we witnessed the kidnapping on the Abuja-Kaduna highway.
And of course, Zamfara State, we will get there because it's part of what's trending on social media at the moment.
So when you see all of this happening very close to the capital city, residents of the capital city will be a bit apprehensive of what the security state of the FCT and the nation is as we speak. And then let's not forget, we are at that time of the year. Statistically, it's been shown that once we enter the Mba month, as we like to call it in this part of the world, from September, October, November, December, crime spikes across the country. So right now, there is need for us to have a coordinated policing structure across the country that ensures that lives and property are protected. When stories like this break out, it's worrisome.
It is.
Because, these are political figures who should naturally enjoy the best of protective cover, and then, being found dead, and yet his demise is still not being, reasons for his demise not made official yet.
That's right.
It throws a lot of people into worry. So we need to begin to look at our security architecture.
Talking about security and the current unrest across the northern part of the country, well, we did learn that over the weekend, Nigerian military released about 11 victims that were kidnapped. Coming from the Abuja-Kaduna incident that took place. We've seen statements like that, and we also see that troops have arrested illegal miners and killed bandits around Zamfara State. So there's been a lot going on, yes. And so much, well, this story is actually still developing, and eventually would get to have the rest of it before the day runs out. So I think a lot is being done concerning security in the country right now.
If I might borrow the words of Denzel Washington, a black American actor, well known across the world, he said, there could be so much movement, but there could be so much motion, but no movement. Yes, a lot is being done, but we're seeing still the level of insecurity grow. I think my humble suggestion is that it is time we have a policing structure that encompasses technology. The police should have drones, a communications command center across the country, maybe across the 6 geopolitical zones, where they monitor movement. We have porous borders. You may be surprised, you may be shocked that more than 50% of the crimes perpetrated in the northern part of Nigeria are perpetrated by people who are not Nigerians.
That has been stated, that has been said over and over again, and that brings us to the question of what happens to something as little as identification, and what happens to security at our borders. It's really worrisome to learn that most of these criminals who come to perpetrate these acts are not even Nigerians, and yet they come to destroy properties, they come to kill innocent civilians, and then they come to cause mayhem, and people lose their means of livelihood because they also rob while they're going about killing and
Exactly.
causing mayhems all over. They rob people of their private properties. We know so far that a lot of farmers, which is why the government is really concerned about the country's agriculture, because now a lot of residents of these regions are and their lands have been taken by force.
Ravaged.
Yes, so they cannot go back to their farms and just go about their business anymore, which is why the country should be worried about food production in the coming future.
Food security has been an issue, not just for Nigeria, but across Africa. I did tell you that the Horn of Africa, for instance, had been of major concern, not just to Africa, but to the world. There was a time where there was global aid to ensure that food was sent to the Horn of Africa, especially when the war persisted in Sudan, the South Sudan and Sudan. We thank God that that has been put to rest. Children were malnourished. There was a lot of the mortality rate in the Horn of Africa at a point in time was so deplorable that people found it hard to report because you could see we had horrible pictures, vultures waiting for kids to die for them to feast on them, and it was horrific, very graphic, So there is a need for African leaders to once again, sit down, look at the continent at sub-regional level, at regional levels, and look at how to improve on inter-Africa trade, inter-Africa security network, try to curb to the barest minimum the infiltration of rebels, jihadists, whatever it is that's currently plaguing the African continent. And there is need to work on that security architecture across the continent, from north to south, from east to west, to be able to strengthen the continent.
That's right. Before we move on from this very topic, personally, I would like to commend the efforts of the Nigerian military. It's not easy, however you want to look at it. These are men at the forefront, ensuring that they try their best to restore law and order around these regions. And, well, they've been doing their best so far. We talked about the army asking for more funds support from the government to continue to fight insurgency. They've been stretched, as they rightly say, and that was from the Senate committee that went to do the investigation, and they took a tour around that part. So it's been a lot. I do hope that they're supported, morally, emotionally, and everything that they need at this point.
Militaries around the continent need support. If I remember correctly, also in the Horn of Africa, there are countries that are being taken over by rebels, jihadists, and because their militaries have been depleted, they don't have the necessary weaponry to be able to repel some of these developments. So we're hoping that, we'll get support. America has pledged support to Nigeria to be able to fight insurgency. America has shown tremendous interest in the security network across Africa.
That's right.
Which has given result to AFRICOM, the African Command of the American military, all in a bid to be able to help African countries, especially within the West African region, going into Central Africa. Central Africa is a totally different ball game entirely. Let's not talk about what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or is it the Central African Republic?
And the political unrest
in Cameroon, So there's so much going on and that's a thing of worry for Nigeria, because once there is this stability in Cameroon, it's going to spill over into Nigeria.
Well, we had refugees. Some months back we had refugees, but we heard that they're in good condition now. I think most of them have actually returned back to their homes. But it was really a sad state, because we had children, we had women, as we learned that most of the men were killed. because they refused to join the rebels
Yeah.
or those who were actually agitating for their own republic, and so they were killed. And some other time they were also brutalized by the police force, and not just that, but the military, the Joint Task Force in Cameroon, who allegedly murdered, men. We heard that, they would just spot a man and they would kill because they assume he is of threat to them. So a whole lot going on. We had refugees, but right now we do not know if it's still as much as it was. Of course, we hope things are getting better, and we just hope that this will be sorted out.
Well, so much happening. So, anything
Moving on.
trending on social media?
Oh, yes. Of course, what's to come ahead of 2023 polls? We've been seeing the back and forth banter between
the PDP and
exactly,
the APC?
the PDP and the APC, as you rightly read from one of the newspaper headlines here. So let's go over to social media, and we'll take our first tweet. And this is from Daily Trust. He says, it says, Nasarawa APC chair assassinated. Zamfara Imam, 30 others still in captivity. Over the weekend, we did learn that gunmen stormed a mosque in Zamfara state and killed about 5, while they kidnapped several others. So, well, the military said they're on top of the matter, and we do hope that in due time we'll get to see what exactly happened, and we hope that these captives will be freed. What's your take on this, John?
Well, again, for me, it's more of an appeal to African leaders, and particularly our president, President Muhammadu Buhari, who I must admit has done quite a lot to, as far as the subject of insecurity across Nigeria is concerned. But it is obvious that at this time, insecurity is a major. I don't want to. I can't imagine myself in your shoes, Your Excellency, trying to decide which one comes first. Is it the
Recession
economy
or insecurity?
Insecurity? I really can't imagine. But trust me, insecurity is also as important as the economy, because if the economy gets back on its feet and the country is constantly under being hit by insurgents, by bandits, the economy will not be stable. It will not be stable. So there is a need to deal with both almost on an equal scale.
Now that's right. So moving on, we've got a next tweet from Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, of course, the former Nigerian Senate president. And this one reads, this attack on worshippers during Jumat prayers, which led to the kidnapping of 40 people, including an imam in Zamfara state, should be a major cause for concern for all Nigerians. Still talking about what happened over the weekend.
Yeah, in Zamfara.
Yes. And so moving on to our next tweet, and of course this is from Channels Television. It says, I'm talking about 2023 and defections should be off the table. Millions of people do not know when the next meal is coming from. Now this is from Peter Obi, former Anambra governor, on David Umahi's defection. We just mentioned that the 2023 polls, what's ahead, has been making rounds. So many speculations around Umahi's defection. Some people are actually stating that, look, he's nursing presidential ambition, so that's the reason for his move, because we did hear over the weekend that definitely come 2023, power is going to the southeast, but it must be under the APC. So this could have actually been the reason why Umahi left the PDP for APC. Well,
I agree with former Anambra State Governor, Dr. Peter Obi, that right now, for the average Nigerian, he doesn't care about 2023. He's thinking of how does he survive today.
Right.
I mean, right now, as it is, it may be hard to believe, but for many Nigerians, even one square meal may just not be there. They can't afford one square meal. I mean, there was a time where Nigerians could survive with 001. Now that one is gradually becoming a 0. And I think for the average Nigerian, that is the most important thing.
Very important. And our final tweet with this one from Daily Post Nigeria, leading the trend. It says, forget about 2023 election, current recession worse than 2016. Now, this is from Peter Obi.
Governor Peter Obi himself will know, because I think he was a governor when that the recession in 2016 happened. Let's not forget, he's one of those governors that remains a major example, because as of the time he left office, he left Anambra very buoyant, and he had been
He's
able
actually
to.
an economist.
And he's an economist, so he
Yeah,
knows.
kudos
So
to
when
him.
he talks, he's talking from a standpoint of superior argument. And I appeal to Mr. President. These are the kind of people you need to bring together to form your economic think tank.
Right.
Expand the economic team. I'm sure a Dr. Peter Obi will be happy to contribute his quota to the development of the country, especially at a time like this. In fact, we can still borrow Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Dr. Obiezi Kwesili. These are people we need their inputs, to be able to revamp, revitalize our economy so that Nigeria can remain the great nation that it is. Well, that sums it up for this edition of The Conversation. Trust us to be back tomorrow. We will do our bit to keep our ears to the ground and our searchlight beamed on everything and anything as far as Africa is concerned. Remember, we discuss, we talk everything and anything. That's why TOS Network is about Africa, telling the African story by Africans for Africa. Don't forget, be part of the conversation. Join our online community by following and liking our social media platforms.
That's right. Do follow us on social media at TOS TV Network on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at TOS TV Network. You could also log on to the website www.tostvnetwork.com for live stream. Now, TOS TV is available on TSTV as TOS News on channel 138.
All right, so we'll be back tomorrow with another interesting edition, and you never know, something might just happen on The Conversation. So don't miss it, okay? See you tomorrow. The 12 days of the answer.
Who cannot afford within school.
Torture and killings for the